Hi, my name is Anthony Chimbaris, and I work for Genesis, formerly SoundBite Communications, and I'm going to be giving my presentation today for the Tableau Customer Conference 2013. The title of my presentation is Wrapping Tableau with an Analytics Process. So before I get into any of that, I just wanted to talk very briefly about Genesis and SoundBite, what we do, and a little bit about our tools and technologies. So Genesis SoundBite is a customer experience management solution. We provide outbound and inbound communication technology within the space of proactive customer care. These are things like surveys, collections and payments. So if somebody's late on their bill, we can work with an organization to reach out to their customers to try to get them to pay. And mobile marketing. These are things like marketing programs, opt-in keyword campaigns, etc. A lot of retailers use our platform to build their loyalty databases. So a little bit about our platform. As I mentioned, it's an inbound and outbound communication platform. First and foremost, it delivers messages on the voice channel. This is basically a telephone. So what we can do with the voice channel is automate phone calls to individuals that are based on a list of phone numbers. So one of our customers might feed us a list of their customers that they'd like to communicate to. We can trigger voice messages to them. They can have an automated voice recording. They can interact with this phone call, press 1 to speak to an agent, press 2 to pay your bill, etc. If they do choose to go to an agent, what we do with our platform is transfer them to a call center that's run by one of our customers. Also, we have what's called a cloud predictive dialer. So this is a system whereby a call center can be notified when there is a customer that needs to be called. So rather than having the voice messages that we send out triggered to them, the call center is actually initiating that phone call. We also communicate over the text channel, so not just phone calls, but also text, and this is two-way communication. We could send out a text message to a large number of individuals, and they can interact with that text message back and forth. We have an agent text portal so that an agent could communicate over the text channel with an individual. The agent's actually sitting at a computer texting, but it appears as though they're texting off a phone. Also provide communication over the email channel. That is what it sounds like. It's outbound communications over email. And then lastly, over the web channel. And mostly this is done, for example, if a company needs to communicate or wants their customers to enter in information, take a survey, etc., over a web page, they're able to do that through our web channel. What we can also do is blend all of these channels together. So, for example, we could send out a text message saying, we'd like you to take our survey. Click on this link within the text message, and that will take them to one of our web channels optimized for a mobile device, let's say. So we're able to track that customer, not only their behavior, their activity, but also across the multiple channels. So it's very, very powerful, very flexible platform. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is how we use analytics to optimize the use of this platform for our customers to make sure that they're getting the most out of it, that they're getting insight that they need to make sure their campaigns and programs are running the way they want to. And again, this could be for a number of different business applications. It could have to do with collections. It could have to do with sending out surveys or some kind of loyalty program or loyalty contest. So very quickly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about our analytics process. This is really not at all rocket science. It's very basic, very simple, but I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork for how we think about analytics and the process behind that. And I'll talk to how we've used Tableau within this analytics process, and some tricks and customizations and configurations we've made with Tableau to fit very nicely into this analytics process. So if we think about a campaign that we may be running for one of our customers, let's just say, for example, that it is a collections campaign, that there are a large number of individuals who might owe money on their phone bill, let's say. And this could be pretty significant numbers, hundreds of thousands of people that are late on their phone bills. So you can imagine if you add all of that up, it's quite a bit of money for the phone company if they can find a way to get these people to pay as opposed to default or shut off service. So the first thing we do within our analytics process is establish a vision and goals for the campaign. So goals might be, for example, I want to get 20% of people on this list to pay their bill within 3 days. Again, time is money. If we can get them to pay within 3 days versus a week or 2 weeks, that's better for our customer. So we establish that high-level vision and goal. Then we define what the business objectives are. What is it we're really trying to improve and measure? And in this case, it's increasing the rate at which the customers are actually going and paying their bills. So we reach out to them. We maybe make phone calls out to these individuals with an option to connect to an agent or an automated system to pay their bill. And the objective here is to try to get an improved rate of payment based on some baseline or historical experience. It's all about always improving. So the first thing we want to do once we've defined that business objective is define a contact strategy. How do we want to reach out to these individuals? Again, if we have a list of 100,000 customers that are late on their bill, what's the best way to communicate to them? Is it over the voice channel, or is text better? Should we try their mobile device versus their landline? What time of day and day of week is really best? So oftentimes when we're starting a campaign like this, we can lean on the results from other customers to see what tends to work best and what doesn't work well. But also oftentimes every business is different, every customer is different, so we can't say that there's a standard that really works across the board. So we try something. We define a contact strategy of maybe evenly pacing the calls throughout the day and the week and mixing up the device that we try, whether it's the mobile or the landline, and trying some different channels like text or email or voice. So that's defining our contact strategy, how we're actually contacting. The next step is to then monitor and analyze the results of that contact strategy. What's working, what's not. Is there a certain time of day that seems to be working better? Is the evening not working as well? Maybe the mobile device is working better during the day and the landline's working better in the evening when people are home. So we want to observe and monitor, again, what's working and what's not. And that brings us on to the next step, which is review, refine, and expand the contact strategy. And initially, we do this with a kind of a test and learn strategy, or some people call it A/B testing or champion challenger, where we identify an opportunity in our initial analysis, and then we carve out part of the list, a small number of customers, and we test that opportunity on a small number of customers. We try not to make wholesale changes to the entire list of customers, just in case we're noticing something that might have second-order consequences. So we do test it on a small but statistically significant sample. What we then do is go back to defining or changing our contact strategy with this test strategy and our original strategy. We test, we monitor, we analyze, we improve, we refine, and then we keep looping through. Maybe we'll see something that really works well, and we'll just expand wholesale. Maybe we want to iterate larger and larger sample sizes until that test strategy is the standard strategy, and then we begin to look for other things to make improvements. So it's ongoing. It's meant to be agile. It's very rapid and quick, and our platform is set up in a way that makes it perfect for this kind of process and analysis. it's about changing settings in a piece of software. It's not about changing behavior or how people do their job necessarily. So it makes it really easy, in a sense, to see improvement, make improvement, and find opportunities for improvement. And again, Tableau just fits in very nicely with all that, given that it's such an agile tool to work with. So it's really agile business improvement. So what I'm going to get into next are a few of the dashboards that we built in Tableau that speak to that business process that I just reviewed. This is one that gets to what we call strategy analysis. This, again, are things like when should we be sending phone calls, or when should we be sending text messages to optimize the outcome, time of day, day of week, type of device. This is really meant to help us analyze and identify opportunities for improvement. So what I have at the top of the screen, very simple. These are different, what we call campaigns. This might be, say, a different group of individuals that we're needing to reach out to. Again, if this were a collections application, maybe these are people who are at different points in their delinquency. This group of individuals might be 30 days late. These might be 60 days late, and these might be 90 days late. So we want to understand across these different customer segments, call them, what the performance is looking like and how we're doing. Down below, we have a grid of time of day and day of week. And again, we're looking at performance from that regard. So I'll get a little bit into what the metrics are, what they mean, and how we've used Tableau to allow for some flexibility in how we study these things and how we look at them. So the first thing I'm looking at here is what we call outbound direct connect. Outbound direct connect means we've placed a phone call. If somebody's picked up the phone, so we call that a live answer. We've asked them if they are the person we're trying to reach. That means they've been right party verified. And we tell them, we have an important message. You're late on your bill. If you would like to speak to an agent to learn more about this or pay your bill, please press 1. And when they press 1, we call that an outbound direct connect. They're direct connecting to an agent. At that point, we hand over the phone call to a call center, to an agent, the next available agent, and they pick it up from there. We do have the ability to track what's happened in the conversation with that agent, how long they've stayed on the line, if that call has been dispositioned in any way that the agent says, yes, indeed, they did pay their bill, or they promised to pay it, or they decided they wanted to cancel their service, whatever it might be. So this outbound direct connect is a very important metric for our customers. They want to know, of all the people that we've dialed, how many actually chose to speak to an agent. If you get them to an agent, there's a good chance they're going to do what you want them to. So that's what I'm using as my numerator in this analysis. In my denominator, I'm looking at delivered person. So it's all the people that we reached out to and have actually picked up the phone. In this case, again, it's communication over a voice channel. So we're interested in the percentage of people that actually press 1 to speak to the agent relative to those that actually picked up the phone. If I wanted to look at it relative to all of my attempts, all of the people that I actually tried to dial, I can do that as well. I can change my denominator here to show that rate versus the rate against the delivered person. Now, the way that we've done this in Tableau, it's pretty simple. We have a data set of all of the attempts that we made on behalf of this customer. Attempts are basically just dials or phone calls. And we have columns for each of these different metrics, whether or not they were an outbound direct connect, whether or not they picked up the phone, etc. And then we use the parameters within Tableau to create a list of the different metrics. So this is just a static list of, think of them as fields in our data set. And then a custom calculation in Tableau that points at the correct column in our data set depending on the parameter value that's chosen. So it allows us to flip around to different columns without having to do dragging and dropping. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we really wanted to make this simple for our end users. So really they just had to pick a field that they wanted to study. We did something similar for our dimensions as well. You can see that the top bar chart, I'm showing it by campaign. I don't have to look at it necessarily by campaign. Maybe I want to look at it by device type. So again, what it's doing is it's just using the parameter to know what column to display on the screen. And now you can see that instead of looking at it by campaign, I'm able to look at my outbound direct connects per attempt by mobile or landline. So we can see in this case that my landlines tend to have a higher rate of direct connects, just over 7.48 per 100 attempts. So about 7.5%. That's pretty standard. It might seem low, but if you think about getting people on the phone who owe money to actually say they want to talk to an agent, it's not a common thing to be successful at. So 7.5% is actually very good. Versus the mobile, which in this case is 3.46%, about 3.5%. So this is now, it gives us an opportunity to identify an opportunity. We can say, for example, that it looks like landlines tend to direct connect better than mobile devices, which tends to make a little bit of sense. If somebody gets a call on their mobile phone and they're out and about and they're busy, they're not going to press 1 to speak to an agent at that point in time. But they might be more likely to do that if they're at home and not in the middle of something, or at least not in the middle of something they can't put aside. This isn't always the case, but again, using Tableau and this type of analysis can help us hone right in on these opportunities. So we can take that even further. So we see that the landlines seem to be working better than the mobile. And by the way, the circles here represent our denominator, so we can get a general sense of magnitude. What we're showing here is that even though the mobile device isn't as successful in direct connecting, we happen to be calling them a lot more, 617,000 attempts over the time period versus 317,000. So again, there's an opportunity. We're calling the mobiles more, but we're not having as much success, so maybe we should start to shift to the landlines more. If we take this the next step further, we're able to see, for example, that there are certain times of day and day of week that works better for us. The bluish shade here represents a higher direct connect rate, and the darker orange represents a lower direct connect rate. So we can see here, for example, that the highest direct connect rate seems to be on Wednesday during the noon hour, and it's about 9.6 per 100 attempts. Not bad. And this represents about 135,000 attempts. So we get a good sense of that denominator, that it's a good number, statistically significant. But in addition to showing that in the tooltip, we also try to show it on the display itself, and that's what the size of the circle here represents. So if we see a big blue circle, that's a good thing. We're pushing a lot of attempts through this time of day and day of week, for example, and it's doing well. If we see a large orange circle, that's not so good. It means we're putting a lot of volume through this time of day and day of week, but it's not performing very well. So again, it helps us identify opportunities for improvement, for shifting, et cetera. Again, we don't need to necessarily look at this just by time of day and day of week. I can change how I'm looking at the different dimensions on this grid below. I just changed it to landline versus mobile. We can see that Wednesday still seems to hold for landline or mobile. Or maybe I really want to get a sense of, is there a certain time of day that's better for mobile and a certain time of day that's better for landline? Who cares about the day of the week? We can see in this case, not really. I mean, it looks like landline's just outperforming mobile in general. Even during the day, the landline's doing better than the mobile device. So Again, we wouldn't know that if we didn't have the ability to drill down in this way. Just one last thing before I jump on to the next slide. We're using the relative date control out of Tableau to make it very easy to change our time period. In this case, I'm looking at the entire quarter. I could also obviously look at just this month. It updates my whole display, so I can do a comparison in that regard as well. And then other quick filters, such as filtering out campaigns and so forth. So that's one type of analysis we do, called strategy analysis. Then we get into things like script analysis. So let's just say we get someone on the phone. They pick up the phone and they're hearing an automated voice message. And automated doesn't mean robotic voice. We actually hire what we call voice talent to record messages for us. These are people with beautiful voices that people love to listen to. And they give the message. They might say, we have an important message for you, you're late on your phone bill, so forth and so on. What we're able to do is analyze at what point people hang up. Maybe they hang up right away. They hear, hi, this is such and such. Put your company name in here. And they hang up right away. We don't want to talk to them. Or, hi, this is such and such. We have an important message. You're late on your bill. Click. So we're able to know at what second they hang up as soon as they pick up the phone. And we're able to track that against the voice recording. So we can say, for example, there's something that's being said at 10 seconds that's causing people to hang up. Or, it looks like people are hanging up pretty steadily early on. But then once they get to a certain point, they're staying on the line for a long time. So what is it that's being said, say, at 40 seconds that we might be able to pull back earlier on? Is it something that's very important to the message that we want people to hear? So we are allowed to make some changes not only to the strategy of when we call or how we call, but then what do we say once we get someone on the line? And likewise, we might want to slice that in many different ways. In this case, I'm looking across different campaigns and how long people are staying on the line. I'll just describe this chart a little bit on the bottom. This is just the number of seconds that someone is on the line, and then this is the percentage of people that are still on the line. So if you imagine at time 0, 100% of the people are on the line, and as we march on 5 seconds, we get about 95% of the people still on the line, and so forth. And you can see it's a steady decline. But then in some cases we see this drop. So what happened here? What happened at 40 seconds that caused this drop for this particular campaign? Again, we might have different messages for each campaign, so we can analyze them independently. Likewise, we can slice, like we did in the last slide, by any of the different dimensions that might be available. In this case, I'm going to look at device type again. We can see that the mobile is just generally lower. So not only are they less likely to direct connect or press 1 for that agent, but once they do that, they're tending to drop off quicker as well. Now, it seems like it's pretty parallel. So what might we do earlier on to keep them on the line just a bit longer so they're matching with this landline? Or maybe it's just called landlines. Those are the types of things that we think about and look at and then begin to test. So from here I'm going to talk a little bit, just jump over very quickly to the SoundBite Genesis platform and just take a couple screenshots of how we can take this information and then make improvements. So this is a screenshot of part of the SoundBite platform. And what this is allowing us to do is define when we want to send out messages. Again, this could be text messages or voice messages or emails, etc. So we have the flexibility to say, send it out only on these days. In this case, we're not doing any Sunday calling. It's just Monday through Saturday. And we're able to define the start time. And this start time is local to the person that's being called. We can identify where they are based on their area code of their phone or based on an address that might be supplied to us by our customer. It's interesting when we use the the area code of the device or the phone that's being called, oftentimes we'll see a pretty wide variety of locations that have been determined. And what we realize is that people move with their cell phones. They could move across the country. You could have someone who's from where I am, the Boston area, move to California, and they take their cell phone with them, and we think they still live in Boston based on their phone number. So what we ask a lot of our customers to do is provide us an up-to-date billing address for that person, and we can then use their zip code to figure out what their local time is and avoid waking them up early in the morning. So again, we can determine the local start time and then how long we want to run the campaign, and that's important for a couple of reasons. We want to be able to pace this campaign. I mean, it's great to get a list of 100,000 names and get through them in an hour, which is something our system's easily capable of doing. But what we need to consider is that on the other end of that phone call, we might need to connect these people to an agent. And agents or call centers don't have unlimited resources. We need to be able to trickle the calls in to the call center so that the agents don't get overwhelmed, but at the same time, they don't sit idle. So we need to pace them accordingly. And the platform has different options for doing that. It's called auto pacing, which is we say we're going to call, say, 100 an hour, and we know based on historical analysis that we'll get, as we saw in one of the previous charts, about 7.5 direct connects out of those 100. So if we have a couple agents online and the phone calls are taking them a few minutes to get through, then we can determine what the right pacing is for those phone calls. The other option is we can do something called predictive pacing, where we can wait until we see a port open up for a particular agent, and when it does, we start making phone calls to get someone on the phone to pass over to them. So a few different options for how we do pacing. So this is how just one way we can tune the campaigns. But then once we do the tuning, we want to be able to test that change actually has an impact. And I had mentioned earlier on when I was going over the process slide that we like to do A/B testing or champion challenger or control testing. The way that we can do that is we could define a test strategy and compare that to the standard strategy. And this is where we can select not only what strategy we want to use, but then also determine what list we want to load or what sample we want to pull from our larger population to do this test. And we can run those two things right alongside each other. So there's no need to control for example, we ran a test on Tuesday and then we ran the regular strategy on Wednesday. We don't need to adjust for day of the week. We're running both of them at once. One of them is on a random sample, and the other one's on the rest of the population. Now, you could say, why not do both on a sample? It's because this is we're still needing to run these campaigns for our customers. They're still looking to make, for example, the collections to collect the money that they're relying on. We can't just pause everything and do some testing on our end. We need to make sure that part of the business still proceeds as normal. So again, that's why we run the standard strategy. We continue to run those, but we test on a very small sample so as to not disrupt their business. So two campaigns running at once alongside each other. So what we're able to do with those results is then monitor the impact. How is one doing over the other? And that's what this type of analysis allows us to do. We try to set our dashboards up so that they look fairly similar to each other. This is the third of three dashboards I'm going to show you, and you probably start to see some commonalities. We have this notion of the bar chart at the top by dimension that allows us to spin around against many different dimensions. And then something down below that allows us to analyze the data in a certain way. The first one was that heat map. The second one was the stay on the line chart. And this is just a simple trend line. right now I'm looking at comparing two different types of campaigns over time, and this is comparing them every day. This is, say, a mobile campaign, mobile-only campaign versus a landline-only campaign, as opposed to a campaign that mixes them together. You can see there's a lot of noise here. I'm looking at it every day, so I might want to minimize that noise. And what we've done is just used a parameter to go into the x-axis on that trend line to take it up or down the hierarchy of date times. So rather than looking at it as day of the week, I'm just going to look at it by week. I want to know just overall for the week, what was my outbound direct connect rate versus delivered person of those two campaigns, maybe a test campaign and a standard campaign. We can see that it bounces back and forth, so nothing definitive here. I wouldn't then go ahead and say, only do landline. It looks like there are certain weeks when the mobile is working better and certain weeks when the landline's doing better. So I don't know. I'd want to dig into this more and do a little more analysis before I make the recommendation to change the standard campaign wholesale. Okay? So that, I just went through the process, the business process we use for analytics, some different dashboards that we've used to identify opportunities and then track progress and monitor improvement, et cetera. A little bit about how we leverage the SoundBite platform to do testing and tuning and so forth. I just want to talk a little bit more about this website that we're looking at. This, in case you haven't guessed, is 100% Tableau. There's no custom web page development that was done to generate this. It's not anything we needed to hire a developer to do for us. It's all Tableau server that we're looking at here, and I'm going to explain a little bit about how we did this, and then some other things we bolted onto it to facilitate the whole analytics process. So the outer frame that you see here, this is really just a Tableau workbook that's calling the Postgres database behind the scenes in Tableau server. And all it's really doing is hitting a few different tables to identify what favorites have been saved by different users, what workbooks are available, and it's just presenting that information in a slightly different way than what you might see in this default Tableau server UI. It's just using some different action filters and web filters to call up the dashboards within an iframe or a web frame in the middle of the page here. So the middle of the page is a Tableau workbook within another Tableau workbook. A few more controls that we put, some more action filters here to progress through the different screens that we might want to look at. Earlier on, I had, for example, my introduction slide was the standard Tableau title slide for TCC. That was just a static image that I put into Tableau workbook. Then I embedded a few of the SoundBite web pages in the next two slides, and then another static image where I was talking about process, and then brought up a few live dashboards under strategy and script analysis, et cetera. So point being that we're just using some native Tableau functionality to display different types of things within Tableau, whether it's a web page or a static image or whatnot. And just put a few different controls. This is if I wanted to look at all of the favorites that I might have saved or other people may have saved. It just lists them all together as opposed to only being able to look at the ones that are related to this particular worksheet. Just made it a little easier to jump from favorite to favorite. We also show within here the different workbooks that maybe had been loaded to this particular site. So that there are just two particular workbooks that we loaded to this site. So that's what we're looking at there, and then the ability to drill down on them. If I wanted to look at the worksheets within the workbook, I just click again and it shows me those. So again, just some URL and action filters that are doing this, hitting the Postgres database. One expansion that or a couple expansions, but one in particular that we put on to Tableau in the Postgres database was this notion of what we call tours. A tour is really a collection of different views. And it's not just views within a workbook, but it's views perhaps across workbooks. So maybe there is a workbook that has a particular worksheet that we'd like to look at in conjunction with a worksheet in an entirely other workbook. With tours, we're able to package those things together and look at them from the perspective of, say, guided analytics. That's what this is really meant to do, is provide guided analytics. And we built it in a way that you can create as many tours as you want and package them any way you want. So maybe there's a certain collection of views that you want to look at once a month, and that might have some overlap with the collection of views that you want to look at every day or once a week. That's what tours do. What I've been looking at, the way I've been presenting to you, is actually with a tour. I created a tour for this presentation, which is a collection of different views. Half of these are in a workbook that I call presentation, and the other half are from a Tableau workbook that's looking at some results of a campaign. So it's blended together, views across workbooks. I'm just going to show you a screen of how you can define your tours, and I'll talk a little bit about how we got this to work in Tableau. So as I mentioned, that shouldn't have happened. This is my first flub. Let's see if I can get this going. I might have to open up another browser. Let's just hope that was a timeout. In fact, I'm going to go at this a slightly different way. Keep our fingers crossed here. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is how we can define tours. The first thing is to identify whether or not the tour exists. So here are 3 tours that have been predefined, and these are stored in a new Postgres table that we built specifically for this purpose, and it's just simply displaying them on the screen here. This workbook, this is a Tableau workbook that you're looking at. It's connected to the Postgres database and reporting back to us all the tours that are available for this site. If we wanted to create a new tour, we can just simply type the name in here and maybe give a description and click on Add Tour. Now, what we're doing when we click on Add Tour, again, I mentioned this is all Tableau. We're calling a very, very